Hey everybody, Janessa, what's going on? I'm here with Melissa Howard.
Hey.
Hey. All right, Melissa is an international confidence strategist, speaker coach, and empowerment photographer, and she specializes in supporting overachievers who are ready to end their battle with self-sabotage and regain their kick-ass confidence. I love that. So welcome, Melissa.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
I know, I'm excited you're here. She's all the way from the UK for anyone that is listening or watching in the US. What part of the UK are you from, Melissa?
So I'm from the Northwest. People who like football might know Liverpool, kind of. But if you like London, I'm about 5 hours from London, so.
Okay. Yeah, and football here is not the same as football there.
Oh, yeah, soccer.
Yeah, soccer, yeah. Perfect. So tell us a little bit more about what you do and who exactly you help and how you help them.
Yeah, so thanks for the introduction. What I do, it's probably best to start with who I am and where I've got to, because I think my story to where I am today is really of the person who I help now, because I'm basically the person I needed 5, 6, 7 years ago. So my background is in healthcare leadership. I'm just about to turn 31. I feel like I'm about 55 with all of my experience and life baggage, but I'm really grateful that, yes, although it's not been an easy ride, at least I've still got quite a big, large majority of my life left to be able to work through it. Whereas I find a lot of people put off all of this, what we're going to talk about tonight or today, because it's just difficult. It's really, really difficult. So yeah, I started my career in healthcare. I've always been a grafter from sort of day one. It was always instilled in me as a child to be a go-getter. And although my grades were all right in school, I just knew that I'd absolutely kill it in the working world because my work ethic was great. I was a perfectionist and I was so proud of being that, which I'm not now. And for me, on the surface, everything was perfect. Everyone wanted my life. I had 6-figure income at sort of 21, 22. I had the house, the car, the fiance. Well, it was a boyfriend at the time, but fiance now. I had everything, but I just felt so like I was chasing something, and every time I got it, I just wasn't ever happy. Like it was kind of like, when you have chocolate and you think, great, I feel a bit sick now. Don't feel sick. But, and you kind of think, yeah, what's next? I'll have more tomorrow. And it's just a really dangerous cycle to get into. So rather than I was putting on weight, and I was also putting on a lot more emotional baggage than I needed. And unfortunately, I developed depression and anxiety. And I believe our inner critic is, it's sort of a host for that. It just regenerates it. It's like a catalyst. And the sooner that I realized that, yes, I had a chemical imbalance because I had depression and anxiety, but I wasn't helping myself get out of that. I was just like fueling it to carry on and get worse and worse and worse. So I kind of got to the point where I just thought, it was weird. Like most people have a light bulb moment. I didn't. Mine was just driving home from work, which same journey, 25 minutes in the car on a motorway or freeway in America. Look at me being all American. And I just felt really scared because I'd got in the car and I'd arrived at home and I couldn't recall anything that had happened in the middle because I was just on autopilot. And that was, for me, that was just a picture of my life. I went to work, put on a mask, dead confident in work to people behind closed doors. I was ripping myself apart. I was thinking, when are they going to find me out? I'm a fraud and this, that and the other. I wasn't. It was just that inner critic. And then I got home and I just thought, you know what? I can't keep doing this because I'm not enjoying it. And unfortunately, when people don't enjoy it, thoughts get worse and then you never know what happens. Yeah. So I just went on a real personal development journey. And the more that I learned about this, and knowing that you can actually get so much more out of life, squeeze so much more. We also don't have a lot of time. That's the only thing we can't get back. So actually maximizing our time, enjoying that time, living in that time, for me, is the biggest. Money, great. You can win it, you can lose it, you can gain it, you can lose it. But
Mm-hmm.
time, it's ticking away all the time. So for me, the inner critic, I love getting my teeth around this because it's generally something that underpins most people's sort of baggage or what's holding them back from being even better than they are now.
Yes, I totally agree. We have talked a lot about this in the last, few weeks in my group on Facebook, and it's really important. I mean, and it also borders on the mental health issue too, because you can't always, or when you say you pulled yourself out of it, or some people can't, or don't know how to. I think maybe it's better that they just don't even realize that they can. Yeah. So getting this message out to as many people as possible, because there are, it seems like almost an epidemic right now that people are stressed, anxiety, and I've got my ups and downs in life as well. I never realized or thought to myself, I'm depressed. Mm-hmm. Although I probably clinically was, I never realized that I was. So looking back on my life, I'm like, oh my gosh, I was probably, I was depressed then. But thank God for some reason, I, one, didn't realize it, I guess, maybe. That was a good thing. And two, somehow was able to pull myself out of it without even realizing I was doing it.
Yeah.
But there are people, a lot of them, that don't understand that. And they listen to that voice in their head, and they don't understand that, our thoughts technically, aren't really our own. Like, these things pop into our heads from, digging down into our subconscious from way back when we were children, and just things that we learned, whether it was at home, at school, from friends, from some guy we met in the grocery store. Like, it can happen anywhere. That negative thought, or that I call it the mean girl in your head, that just implants itself there over something, could be a very silly thing, or it could have been a very traumatic thing, or anything in between. But now they live there, and now they start talking to you, and you start believing them because it's in your head. Like, why wouldn't we believe it, right? Because we're thinking it. But
and it doesn't mean if you have a really, what I call it, you can call it a chimp as well. So I see like a monkey literally running around my head, losing shit, my language. And, it's kind of like, the conscience and the devil, but actually you don't actually have the little angel on your shoulder. It's always this devil screaming in your ear. Now, for me, with my mental health, I'd had that throughout sort of my teenage years, had a traumatic experience. I was sexually abused. I personally still don't attribute that to the reason why I had mental health issues. I just think it was just the time I was living in, and the hormones and boys and all that sort of crap.
Life.
And just life. And I just didn't know how to deal with it because I'd never had to do it before. And I went to therapy and bits, and it's not to badmouth it at all. Some of it was great, some of it wasn't great. But all they wanted to do was pin everything back to that moment. And it's like, actually, the thoughts that I'm having now are about, as you say, me walking down the street, me talking to the cashier and being all happy, but inside thinking, what are they going to think of me? Are they going to think I'm fat? What are they going to think of my hair? Does my makeup all right? It's all of these little things that, really sort of underpin and undermine you as you go along.
Right.
And the labels that you were saying, like depression, anxiety, like, I'd like saying it because we need to talk about it more. And especially in the UK, we've only really just started talking about this.
Us too. Yep.
Yeah, which is great, but still we shouldn't be, we're now in the second decade of, not in the third decade of the millennia. You would think we'd be talking about this a lot more. But I generally just see as, regardless if you're a label or not, it's the symptoms that you're exhibiting at that period of time. It doesn't have to follow you around for life.
Right.
I use it as a badge of honor to say to other people, you think you put me on a platform, but actually you should have seen me 6 years ago. You should
Mm-hmm.
see me 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Like you know what I mean? Like we had like yeah, it was like a really bad time for me 3 weeks ago, but I snapped out of it within 48 hours. But
Mm-hmm.
it's having those hints and techniques to be able to do it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's
When you
knowing
have,
that. Oh, sorry.
no, that's okay. We're probably going to say the same thing, that when you have the tools and you understand that you have resources that you can use to, pop yourself out of it, like you say, that, you feel better about it. And I know for me, like I said, we've talked a lot about this in a lot of different areas, but it's, like just catching the thought and knowing that you're thinking it is like the first biggest step.
Yeah.
Is really just knowing that it's even, the thought's even there. So I think a lot of times they come and you just don't even realize that,
it's like, natural, it's autopilot.
Yeah.
And I think about the tools as well, is that as you progress as a person, you outgrow the tools. So where I got to, if you were to say 3 years ago, I was like, oh my God, I'm on like cloud 9, I'm at the top of my peak, like this is the best I've ever felt. But then as I was gradually getting, better and stronger as a person, those tools weren't helping anymore because the inner critic got stronger. It got a bit savvier. So I was like, damn, I need to change it. So it's knowing that it doesn't mean that it's wrong anymore, it's not working. It just means that we need to look at the tools again to see, do you need a bit more of a wrench instead of a hammer?
Yes. Yeah, no, totally. Yes. So tell us what your tools are to turn that inner critic into your inner cheerleader.
So for me, I think the first thing is knowing which of the inner critics. So there's generally about 7. I think there's probably about 9, but generally it's written down that there's 7 inner critics. And I think they can all be sort of tackled in the same sort of way. But I think if you can actually identify which one is your main critic, your main mean girl, like who is the main bully, it makes it easy for you to actually pick it out, because some of these do overlap. But, I'll read through some of these so you can kind of think. For me, I have 3 that are always there. They're a lot quieter now. I've got my cheerleader that cheers a lot louder than them, but it's always there. And I think it always will be there because, it's trying to protect us. That's what an inner critic does. Right. Otherwise, I'd be completely like risk-free running around naked in the street, I think. So, not that I've done that before, obviously. So I think the first one to talk about is perfectionist. And again, I was saying to you before, this was something that I was so proud about. I used to go into interviews and say, my biggest strength and weakness is I'm a perfectionist. When actually, it was the one thing that was holding me back so much, because I had to do everything perfect. I was spending so much time. I had such high standards, both for performance, for production, what other people thought of me. And it just really prevented me. And it just made me so fearful that I wasn't going to be good enough. So sometimes I was working forever to make something perfect, craving for love for someone, from someone who kind of thinks, you don't do it perfectly or this, that, and the other. It just never worked. So perfectionist one is one. And I think that most people have a trait, especially high performers and overachievers, definitely have some sort of perfectionist trait. Now, I'm not saying having high standards is a bad thing, but it's when it actually fearfully takes something out of you, when it actually sort of disqualifies you from moving forward. The second one is being an inner controller. So this one is kind of like, if you think of any impulse behavior that might not be good for you, and it might be quite dangerous. So as I was saying before, if I didn't have this inner critic running around with me, it could be really difficult, and it tends to be quite harsh. And when you do slip up, it shames you, which is really, really bad.
You there?
Did I go?
Yeah, no, I don't know.
You were staring at me like this for a while.
Yeah, I don't know what the heck happened. It just all of a sudden, I'm like, oh, like everything just stopped. All right. Well,
Whereabouts did I get up to?
uh, we were at the second.
Oh, okay, cool. Inner
Yes,
controller.
yes, yes.
Cool. So yeah, the inner controller, like it's so funny. I kind of see this. This is how I picture it. I'm very visual. I see this person behind, like, the train conductor, sort of really just taking control of everything that you do, every move that you make when you walk down the street. What is that person thinking of me? You walk into a room to do a presentation and you kind of clam up and you just feel terrible. And anything that you do, if you kind of miss a beat or you mispronounce something, it's completely just shames you from there on in. The third one is the taskmaster. So this one, again, it's quite close to perfectionism, but I think it goes a little bit further because it just tries to get you that little bit more harder, work that a little bit more harder. But it's so disciplined. So again, it's that shaming. So if you don't do it as perfect as this, you're just going to be shamed. You're mediocre, you're average, or you're less than average. And it can really sort of cause a feeling of overstriving for work. So workaholism. So that's what I basically had. I kind of lost all of my friend circle because I kind of was thinking at some point I'm going to be found out as a fraud. And the only person who can do a good job is me. Like, how much of a big-headed douche was I? But underneath all of that was all of that shaming and all of that really sort of het up, I didn't know who to speak to because I had this taskmaster telling me all the time, you've got to do better. The fourth one is the underminer and imposter. So if you think of the imposter syndrome, and it really just undermines your self-confidence every turn, your self-esteem, if you've got any at this point. Most people don't, because it's been absolutely whipped out of them. And you won't take any risks. You won't do anything because you don't want to fail. You don't want to get too big. You don't want to get too powerful or too visible because you just think you're going to get attacked or rejected. And it just makes you feel completely worthless. So again, that fraud thinking, I've got to keep myself within this box because that's all I'm good for. My boss from 10 years ago said X about me, so he must have been right.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So the underminer is probably the one that people won't pick up on because it's constant. And for me, when I speak to people, it's when people say I'm thinking small, it's generally because they're in this box, this undermining box, because actually they're not thinking small. They're just getting the rug pulled out and the carpet pulled out from under them every time they think about doing something.
Yeah, and that's a tricky one too for entrepreneurs, because to be an entrepreneur, you have to put yourself out there.
Yeah.
Whether you're selling a widget or you're selling a service, people want to know who they're buying from. So if they can't know you, like you, and trust you, then they're going to move on to the next person. So somebody dealing with, this type of, mean girl has some work to do.
Yeah, no, there's definitely. And again, it's then looking at other people to say, yeah, but they're great at X. You very rarely, some people do sort of attack other people and reject, but it is basically them who are kind of like, yeah, but they're so great at that. But I could never do that. Even if, previously you used to look at a job description and everything ticked a box except one line, and you think, I can't do that. Why would they shortlist me for that? And it's just like, and then you find someone with no qualifications, no experience, gets the job because they believed in themselves.
Yeah.
The fifth one is the destroyer. So this makes attacks on your self-worth, and it just shames you deeply. So all it basically wants to do, I see this as sort of the Dementor out of Harry Potter, follows you around everywhere, just this like black cloud, and you just kind of like every now and again you can see it over your shoulder and you're just like, oh, it just is, it's just wanting to just consume everything of you, and it really does. Then you've got the guilt tripper. I don't think that needs much more explanation, but it just makes you feel guilty for everything. Guilty because you're successful, guilty because you're not, guilty because you're not spending time with the kiddies or the dog, or you haven't had a shower for 2 days. Hey, it's entrepreneurial life.
Yeah, it's life, period, right?
Get
I
some
mean,
deodorant.
sometimes that's just life, period. But especially
I
when you have
know.
kids and a family, and then, when you go to do something for yourself, you're like, oh, I can't do anything for myself. That's
Yeah,
awful. Like, how
yeah.
dare I think about myself? Well, if you don't fill up your own cup, you're not going to be able to fill up anybody else's either.
No, no. And again, it's that emptiness. And then the last one is the molder. So this is where you sort of mold to fit a mold for either a certain job type, a certain image that you should have if you're a photographer or an entrepreneur, maybe even molding for what your family believe you should be or act like, or, sometimes it's cultural as well.
Mm-hmm.
But, if you're caring or aggressive or too polite, you're too this. And it's kind of like, you're always going to be too polite, so we're going to put you in this box. You can never be a manager leader. You can never be an entrepreneur being polite. You need to be hustle. And it's all of this, we're fed this. It sounds stupid when I say it, but we're fed this and we're feeding this to ourselves all the time. And, it attacks you even when you're praised.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because I know for myself that I had a hard time for a long time accepting like compliments, like, oh, you're so good at that. And I'd be like, oh, no, I'm not. No, I'm not, But, and we're not totally not saying, you should be perfect at all of these things, like, that you shouldn't have negative thoughts. We're human. We're always going to have that thought in the back of our head. I think it's more what you do with it, how you react to it,
yeah,
and how you move forward from it, that's going to count. So tell us what to do.
Listen to it. It is. I literally say this all the time. People are like, oh my God, she is on a different planet. And I am most of the time. But you need to sit down and have, what's your favorite drink?
Iced coffee.
You need to sit down with it, take 5 minutes and have a nice coffee with it.
Oh.
Because what we really need to do is make friends with it. Because instead of fighting it, instead of just letting it go on autopilot, we actually need to listen to what is being said, how it's being said, what voice it is, because sometimes it's not our voice.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and the circumstance too, I think.
Yeah. And then what I generally do is then go in deeper of saying, do you have any visuals with it as well? So sometimes, if you feel, if you're going in for a presentation for a big contract with someone, and then, 20 years ago, you may have tripped up a stair, going to school, that might be in your mind saying, oh my gosh, you're going to walk in and you're going to trip up and this is going to happen. It's kind of like really just take all of that imagery and that feeling and the smells and all of, what happens to your body physiologically, and just sort of embrace it rather than fight it.
Yeah.
Because then the next step of doing that is you need to actually be realistic with it. Because and sometimes when I've done it, and when I was in the very early stages of doing it, someone said, and they were starting out as well, but I was like, I'm a perfectionist. I like to pick holes and stuff.
Yeah.
They kind of said to me, like, have a think of it, and have you got any evidence to prove that this happened? I'm like, yeah, I've got tons. Like, I had a list. I was like, this happened, that guy said this to me, this happened to me, this is what I looked like, my body, I was in a state, I was sweating, and they were like, okay. So really, what evidence is great, but make that come last. It's just being realistic with it. I generally think as well, it's like knowing if you've ever been there before. Like if you say, I can't do it, or I'll never be able to do that. I'm not academic. I hear that all the time. I'm not academic. It's like, okay, great. I was like, has anybody not academic wanted to do what you wanted to do? Ever? Like, ever?
Yes.
But.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, let's pick out, what is that but? Let's pick it out and look at that. And it's really, when you have time to do that, you can kind of unravel very, very slowly what it is and what is the root cause. Because we think it's tripping up on the stairs, but what it is we felt really, really embarrassed.
Yes.
And we thought people were looking at us and laughing at us, and, someone sneezed, but they were laughing. And it's kind of, and we hold on to that for so long, and we put so much sort of thought and like life behind it. It's actually just being really realistic. So I'll share one with you from one for me personally. And I like sharing this just because it's quite raw, because so my background's healthcare. Even though I said I felt like a fraud and imposter, I knew what I was doing. I could do it with my eyes closed. I was shit hot at it. It was great. When I decided to retrain and become a coach, because I was then having to help other people, and I kind of felt, I've been where they are, kind of, or in a similar situation. They're now putting their time and effort into me. All of those instances when I had therapy or I spoke to someone and they gave me bad advice or advice that didn't work or support, I kind of thought, what if I do that for them? And then they think what I thought of that person at the time.
Yes.
Like, who am I to do this? Yeah, I've got 3 qualifications. I'm a trainer as well. I've got this, that, and the other. But who the hell am I? Why would anyone want to pay me than, Tony Robbins or, Rachel Hollis? Like, they're more accessible. They're better. They've got great social media presence. Why the hell would anyone want to invest in me? I swear, I sweat. I don't really wear makeup. It's like those sort of things I was playing on.
I got my messy bun going on. I've got, my sweats are on.
Yeah.
And I'm showing up.
It was something that I was working on my business, but I wasn't putting myself forward because it was holding me back. And someone came to me and said, oh, can I have your costings? I was just like, well, if I give them my costings, then they'll think, why is she charging that much? And for me, and this is me as a coach.
Yeah.
Everybody goes through this. We're not perfect. Like, I still go through some of these things on a daily basis.
Yeah, I think everybody that starts something new, for one, feels this way. Every new entrepreneur, every entrepreneur that has been in business for a while, they try something new and they're going to get, these feelings are going to come up.
Yeah.
I mean, it is crazy to me, but it happens because it's something new. We don't know what's on the other side. We're going outside of our comfort zone. That reptilian part of our brain is going, what the frick are you doing? Like, we've never done this before. This is scary. Don't do that. Yeah. So all those thoughts come up, and it happened to me too. And it still does happen to me sometimes. Like you just said, like, they creep back every once in a while, like that, old lady neighbor that peeks her head out of the doorway and is like, has to know what you're doing, Yeah. It happens, and it's okay. And, when I first started doing all this self-work, the second that I would get a negative thought, I would get another negative thought because I got that negative thought. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, oh, it's not working. Like, what am I doing wrong? Like, oh my God, just let it go. Like, that's what I would be telling myself. Let it go. You're not doing anything wrong. You're retraining your brain to think differently. Yeah. So, and that's not going to happen the first time you try it. It's like anything else. You have to keep doing it and keep doing it. And less will that mean girl show up. Yeah. But she will still show up.
Yeah, most definitely.
She's like the party crasher,
Yeah. And the best thing about the whole turning it from a critic to a cheerleader is when you do so when I did that, and I was kind of like, oh my gosh, I really need to look at this, because it's just going to pull me down. It's going to make me go into, coaching sessions with people thinking I'm not going to do it. And of course I'm not going to be the best. I'm not going to be on my A game. Right. So I kind of then went back to, okay, what evidence have I got in favor of me either coaching or actually succeeding at something, helping somebody else? I literally had pages and pages of stuff that automatically made me feel great. So what I then did is, because I knew that this isn't going to be a one box tick and then I'll feel great for life. Right. What I then did is I kind of made like a portfolio of that for myself, because I knew that this was something that was coming up time and time again, every day. Every time I sent a message to someone, it was kind of like that inner voice. And I kind of thought, Yes, I can ignore it and move forward, but I know for me, especially with that, that is like I would say like a disease. So what I need to do is look at it. So I'd have a cup of tea with myself, or, you know, your iced tea. And then what I would do is I'd have a look at that portfolio. For some, I did videos of me, I'd helping people. I asked people to do testimonials for me, just for me personally. So I could listen to it, listen to their voice and their tone, saying how, you know, I've helped them change their mindset and their life. And yeah, at the beginning, I didn't have that, but I knew that in earlier times, I've been able to help people, even if it's crossing the road with an old lady, you know, really weird things like that, and picking something up, you know, in the supermarket when someone drops it instead of ignoring it. Those little things, tiny insignificant things, but actually they even make me emotional now thinking of it, because they just make you fill that cup up when you feel so low, so alone, and you don't feel you can speak to someone. It just kind of says, well, actually, no, I am a good human being, and I'm going to go into this coaching session with all of my might to help them. I can't fix them, but I'm going to help them.
Yeah, and that's important. That's important. So we know that we can't fix people, because that's not our job as coaches. It's our job to guide those people to the right decision for them.
Yeah.
And that, you know,
space.
Yeah, and it's holding space, yes, for them to, you know, realize what it is, whatever we're coaching them on at that moment, you know, what is the right path for them to take. But when it comes to, you know, that mean girl or guy, that's because I'm, you know, girls are not the only ones that talk themselves down the path, you know. I think we're just the ones that talk about it more. We're the ones that talk about, you know, yes, we do have it, where guys are like, oh, I don't know what you're talking about, you know. But, you know, so I know what I do. I do three things. I thank her, and then I question her, and then what do I do? I thank her, question her, and then challenge her and move on.
Okay.
So, you know, like, thank you for showing up, because I know why you're here. You're here to try to keep me safe, because it's my ego talking. It's that ego saying, you know, really, even though she's talking mean because for some reason she's trying to keep me safe from feeling the way she's telling me I'm feeling right now. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then, you know, question her, like, you know, why, like you just said, sit and have your cup of tea with it. Like, why am I thinking these thoughts? Why is she saying this to me? And then challenge, again, like you said, it's like busting holes in those beliefs that you think you have. You know, well, has everybody that ever worked hard been successful? Like, that's a big one in entrepreneurship. You have to work hard to be successful. You know, I'm not saying don't work, but you don't have to kill yourself working to be successful. Like, you just gotta ask yourself the question, has everybody, or have I ever, like you said, you know, helped anybody in my life feel better? Yes. Great. So then you can do it with this person too.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think as well, I had someone a couple of weeks ago when we were holding that space, and it was really interesting because when they came up with the listening to it, they basically missed a friend's birthday. And they felt really, really bad. You know, we were talking about business, but it came up so many times. I was like, hey, we need to hold space for this. What's going on?
Yeah.
And what it was is she didn't feel like she was a very good friend because she missed the birthday, and because of other things that happened in the past with this person. And she thought they were the best things in sliced bread and so supportive of her, but actually she wasn't giving it back. So again, it's kind of like it's making peace with you not being perfect in the past. and actually holding a light to it to say, well, why don't we ring the friend, not together, but why don't we ring the friend, in our mind, ring the friend, and why don't we have a conversation to say, hey, I missed your birthday. I feel really bad about it. I know I haven't been there, all the time, exactly as you, but you know what? This is what I'm going to do. Like, own up to it.
Yeah.
Like, own that space and then go forward with it. Because again, I feel like if we do things wrong, or we're not great, or we're not perfect, we kind of, all we really want to do is just kind of stop.
Yeah.
And when we stop, we're kind of thinking that person isn't gonna, oh, is everything all right?
Sorry. No, go ahead. Keep going.
Is that person is gonna think what we think of ourselves. And hey, sometimes we might warrant the thoughts that the other person's got, but sometimes we just put it into our head. We're guilt tripping, we're undermining ourselves, we're destroying ourselves. Or actually, we just need to, be really honest to say, hey, that was really bad. I feel really bad about this, but actually, this is, my pledge to us moving forward, and I'm sorry, rather than just kind of, that was consuming her for 4 weeks in her business.
Yeah.
And we're talking about how we can move our business forward, and she's talking about this in her friend's birthday. I'm like, it's just kind of like, you don't realize what keeps coming up. And you might think, it's not business, it's not affecting my life or my sales or my family life, but it does if that is sort of, within you all the time.
Yes. Yeah. One of my clients, I am not a life coach. I'm a branding and social media marketing coach, but I just helped one of my clients set up a morning routine for herself and her child so that she could feel more present with her kids in the morning, so that she didn't feel so guilty about working at night. Like, it's not all just about business. It's your life. It's everything. And if you feel bad about missing your friend's birthday and that is stopping you from moving forward, then let's talk about it. Yeah. Absolutely. And I agree that, go tell your friend that you're sorry, and owning that, even though your friend may not, might not have affected your friend the same way that it affected you, but you feel bad about it. So go talk to your friend. Like, that's the only way that you are going to heal yourself through that guilt and shame, is to own it and talk to them.
Yeah.
I
always find as well, it's never really as bad.
Yes.
But it's so painful to even think about doing it. One of the other things that I have all the time is, and this is one of the reasons why I don't wear makeup now, is because I love showing people this, is again, people say, oh my God, you're so confident on camera and I absolutely love it. I feel really confident, but for some reason, even when I'm speaking in front of people, my body seems to let me down, and I just have like this patch of red.
Oh yeah.
And, it's so funny, like on some of my Facebook lives, you start at the beginning and by the end I'm a patch. And, but I do it so much because I'm like, I'm owning it, because my body is physiologically telling me that it's anxious about something. Like, you're saying I'm this. Yes, I'm feeling happy and I'm feeling relaxed, but something has happened. I might have seen somebody do something. I might have seen someone roll their eyes or yawn, and it's made me go, ooh. Yeah. Although I might not have thought the thought, my body's reacting. So I always kind of say, like, just because someone shows it on the outside, unfortunately your body will let up. If you're sweating a lot, if you're shivering, those sort of things, it comes out. So just own it. And that's what I'm kind of saying is, look at the patch.
Yeah, right. When I was in one of the biggest days, that when the teacher said, you have to do this project, and then you have to get up in front of the class and explain your project or read your book report or whatever it was like total anxiety takeover for me. And I hadn't even done it yet. Just the thought of having to do it was sickening to me. And then to actually get up there and do it, I would pray that the teacher would be like, just forget I was in the room, And now, I mean, I go live in front of thousands of people, and people say to me, you what? Like, you didn't like to speak in front of people? No, I hated it. I hated it. And even now, I mean, I have not spoken in front of a lot of people that were like in the same room with me. I would probably still be pretty nervous, but not as nervous as I was, you know, at school. But of course, I mean,
I think it's a natural response.
it is. It is, because everybody, I think, everyone wants to be accepted. And I think that's really what it comes down to, is acceptance. It doesn't matter what you're talking about. It doesn't matter what you're wearing. It doesn't matter what your hair looks like or anything else. The words that are coming out of your mouth is what everyone's there to hear, right?
Yeah.
But in our own heads, we're going, is my shirt wrinkled? Is my hair out of place? Am I talking too fast? Am I not talking fast enough? Am I, you know, 1,010,000 different things run through our heads like that in a split second, and it can derail the whole thing. So, you know, my first Facebook Live was me stuttering through things, Post-it notes everywhere on my screens. Like, I didn't want to miss anything. And I was reading, you know, I was just reading the Post-it notes. And, you know, still to this day, I will, you know, put up slides for myself just so that I have something to reference back to, because I will totally forget what I was saying right in the middle of it. And not necessarily that I'm nervous, but I guess maybe part of it is that I'm nervous, because my brain just goes, now what do I say? I don't know what to say. Oh my gosh. So if I have something, you know, that says, okay, this is your next point, Janessa, then I'm like, oh, good. Okay. So now I know what I'm talking about. And it makes me feel more confident that I'm not going to stumble through my live and people aren't going to be like, what is she doing right now? So yeah, it happens to all of us every single day. And in a lot of, you know, you don't even have to be in business. I mean,
no,
anybody.
I remember when I got my, it was my first diploma. We had to do a presentation in front of the group, about 20, 30 people. And we'd been with the peers for ages. And I think it's more nerve-wracking in front of people you know. Or at the time it was, most definitely, because they'd all put me on this big pedestal as I'm confident, I'm outgoing, and that I'd be able to do this great. But not all of them, but the majority of the marks were coming down to this presentation. I knew I could kill it, but I knew I could let myself down at the same time. So I got up, stood at the front. Everyone else had, I don't think everybody, but most people had gone. So I'm like this beforehand. And, you know, when you're not even listening, it sounds awful, but, you know, when you don't listen to other people because you can't enjoy it, because you're just like, oh my God, when am I going to be next?
Yeah.
And I stood up, and, you know, other people were like, oh my God, I'm so nervous, and blah, 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 blah. And, you know, it was great. I stood up and I started speaking, and then, you know, and you can hear your voice shivering.
Yes.
And I could hear it, and I just went, oh, sorry, I'm a bit nervous. Carried on. I got marked down for that.
Really?
I was the only one who got marked down because I interrupted my presentation because I didn't say it at the beginning. I kind of said, hi, my name's Melissa. I'm nervous. But they also kind of said as well, it kind of really put a downer on the whole presentation because you don't come across as nervous and you did it really well and blah, blah, blah. And that's always sort of been in my mind to kind of say, like, sometimes the thoughts that we have, you know, it's natural to be nervous, but actually standing up in your power and in your moment, sometimes, you know, that was my inner critic talking. I thought it was me kind of saying, you know, be nice to me, but actually it was me saying, you're shivering and your mouth sounds like it's chattering.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or actually, like, now when I do that, I just kind of go, okay, because I'm kind of like, it's normal to be nervous.
Yeah. Yeah.
If I'm doing a talk to people about introverts and blah, blah, yes, I might say, hey guys, I'm nervous standing up here, you know, to sort of connect with the audience. But if I'm doing it to a group of pharmaceuticals and I say, hey, I'm nervous, they're just going to be like, get off.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, it's knowing when to harness it, knowing when to use it, but then also knowing when to actually just say, hey, you're talking out, so what, I'm chattering, so what, I'm a patch. Like, let's just get on with it. Let's pick it apart later on, but let's actually just keep moving forward right now.
Yes. Yeah, that's great. That's awesome. So what would your thoughts be or advice be for those people in my audience that are new entrepreneurs to get themselves out there, get their branding photos done, get on their Facebook Lives, get on, Instagram Live, just to get their message out there? Like, even I think posting, people writing things makes people nervous.
Yeah.
So what advice do you have for them?
I think even just hearing that list, I know that some people with all of that list will go, I can't do that.
Yeah.
And I know that some people will think, I can do that and that, but definitely not that. Like, if I can do 80% of that, so I don't need to do the 20. And what I would say is, even if you think for your business you don't need to do the 20, you need to do it for yourself.
Yes.
And where I would start with that is, if your mind and your chimp and your inner critic is literally running around saying, I could never do that, it's, again, just take some time out. I do meditations for this as well, is to be able to really just calm your mind a little bit for when you do this work. So even if you've never done a Facebook Live before, I find this all the time. People have never done a Facebook Live, but they think it's going to be the worst thing, and no one will watch and everyone will skit at them and whatnot. And I've never found it, but I think most people are so empowered when someone does a Facebook Live that they've never seen do a Facebook Live before, even a story, because it's kind of like, well, I could never do that. That's exactly what they're generally saying. So what I say is, write down all of your thoughts and your fears and whatnot. And then again, write down that other list of what evidence have you had. So if you think everyone's going to judge you and make fun of you and reject you and attack you and troll you, have you got any experience of that? Most people won't, especially if they've never had any sort of presence before. If they have, pick it apart. Are they your ideal client? Are they going to be paying your bills?
Does their opinion matter?
Does their opinion matter? Like, at the end of the day, what is it that you're putting out? Is it positive? Is it helpful? Is it going to help somebody, even just one person, think better about themselves, move forward in their life, and use that as fuel? Because, we're entrepreneurs for a reason, but keeping our gift and our passion to ourselves is the worst thing that we can do. It's really quite selfish.
Amen.
So, so that would be my starter. But I just think with everything, you just need to really lay off yourself, be less harsh. The more positive you can be and the more hopeful you are, it festers, it multiplies. And conversely, negativity multiplies too.
Yes. Yeah. And the advice I would give to add on to that would be, would you, if your child was going to go live, would you say those same things to your kids? Or would you be encouraging? Would you be like, no, you can do it. Like, you got this, just do it and get through it. And, you'll get better every time you go. Would you say that to your kid? Or would you be like, oh yeah, no, you suck. Like, you're nervous. Don't do it. This is too hard for you. No, I'm pretty sure you probably wouldn't.
I know a couple of people who would do the latter. When you said that, I was thinking, yeah, they would. But again, it's kind of like, pick that apart.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, pick it apart. And 90% of the time, or 100% of the time, you're not going to die from doing this. But that's what it feels like inside sometimes when you're so nervous that you're like, I can't. So whenever I hear one of my clients say, I can't, I walk them through the actual physical steps of doing what they're going to do. I said, I don't want any emotion in this, zero emotion. Tell me the steps to go live. And they go through the steps. You go on Facebook, go on my page, hit the live button, type my stuff in, and the camera comes on. Great. Is that going to kill you? No, it's not. So it's not that you can't do it. You can do it. You just have to take the story that you're attaching to it and put that aside.
Yeah.
Because that's all it is. All those feelings, all that nervousness is the story you're telling yourself that you're doing to whatever action you're trying to take.
Yeah. And as well, on top of that, it's the I can't. When you unpick it, it's basically they're saying I won't. And it's very difficult for an entrepreneur to admit that they won't do something, because it's kind of like, well, I've got to, because this is my back, this is my business, this is my baby, this is my bag. But if I can't do it, it just means I've got a skills deficit.
Yeah, or I failed.
Yeah, or I
You
failed.
do what I failed, yes.
Yeah.
And which you did not.
Yeah. And I also say as well, like when I first started, I was like, oh, I'm going to outsource this and that because I don't like this and blah, blah, blah. And yeah, I don't like a lot of things in business. Like I don't think financials are my strong point. But the more I tell myself that, of course, it's not going to be a strong point. Like web design, I've designed my website. It's not the best. It's not the worst. But if I paid someone to do that and it wasn't for how I wanted it, it's like, how can I tell them what I want? So actually embodying it rather than saying I can't is actually saying, do you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to experience it. So I know what it is that I want and what I don't want.
Yes, exactly. I totally agree. Every part of your business every part of your business, you should know how to do everything in your business. Do you need to be an expert in everything in your? No, you do, but you do need enough to be dangerous so that when you're looking at your financials or, your analytics on your website or on your social media, that that it's going great or you could improve something. Like you have to know what the parameters are and have some knowledge around what is going on so that you're not lost. Like this is your business, it is your baby, but you don't have to be an expert in every single thing.
Yeah. And the great thing is it adds to evidence.
Yeah.
So whereas I was saying I could never, look at my finances, I could never, put my tax return together. I've done 2 tax returns now. And it's kind of like, it's painful every single time. Critic is going on every single time. But every time I click submit, I kind of think, I bloody did that. I'm so proud of myself.
Yeah.
And again, I keep that as evidence. I put a picture on my website. Someone would laugh at that. But at the same time, I'm proud because I said I couldn't do it.
That's right. That's right.
It might be back to front. It might be black and white. It's not meant to be black and white, but I did it.
Yeah, right. I figured it out. That's so true. And that's, all that you can do is work with what you have, pick apart those negative thoughts, know that you're having them, like really think about what you're thinking, because it fascinates me that thoughts can just pop into our head randomly and we don't even mean to think them. We just automatically do.
Yeah.
So, I think that's really the first step, is to know that what you're thinking is not serving you and it's not helping you move forward and it's actually holding you back.
Yeah. And no matter how painful this process is, know that it is going to take you at least a step closer, at least.
Yeah.
That 1 millimeter shift every day, rather than, I used to do this all the time, and this is part of the critic, is I wanted to get everything done. I was a perfectionist. I wanted to do it all within a week. But then after 3 days, I'd have burnt out from doing it. I found out I couldn't do it. It was too difficult. Whereas doing something 1 millimeter every day, one little change, that's 360 by the end of the year. But I never gave myself the chance to do it because I put myself all in on a week and I checked out after 2 or 3 days. So one of my biggest ones is I never finish stuff.
Yeah.
I'm a great starter, but I'm not a finisher.
Yes. Well, and you'll overwhelm yourself right in the beginning.
Yeah.
You can get it all done in a week when, you give yourself more grace than that.
Yeah.
You have to understand that it's not anything, anything that you do in life and business, you're going to plant a seed today and it's, you're not going to reap the benefits from that, for a little while, but you have to keep watering the plant. Like you have to keep doing it. You have to keep moving forward, or the plant's just, it's never going to even have a chance.
Yeah. I actually put a post up, I think it was yesterday actually, which is really good timing. Let me read it to you. I just find it so good because it's basically saying just that. It's like, Where is it? Here it is. Oh no, I've lost it. I'm looking too fast. Where is it? Oh, here it is. You meet someone incredible, but you question it. You get invited to the table, but you sit too quietly because you're too busy questioning if you belong there. But the good things happen in your life and you ask why. Blessings can't multiply if you're always questioning them.
Yes, totally.
And it is. Yeah. I feel like with that, we plant the seed and we're questioning it. Like, why isn't it growing? Why isn't it doing anything? It's like, you know, I used to be that person that goes to the gym in January. And then by day 3, I'm like, why haven't I got a 6-pack?
Yeah.
It's like that, you know, if I was to do something every day by the end of the year, I might not have a 6-pack, but I might have 4.
Yeah, right. Or even 2. That's okay.
Or even less of 1.
Yeah. Yes.
But yeah, I just think we sell ourselves short in mindset and business and life in every way. But the more that we can just be mindful of actually accepting where we are right now, making peace with the past, and actually taking steps forward, and knowing that every step that we take, we might have to take a couple of steps back, but you'll bounce back even quicker.
Yes.
You really will.
Yeah.
I've got in February, I'm going to be doing a 5-day free challenge for the inner critic.
Awesome.
And it takes you through, because you know I like to talk. It takes you through sort of a few small recorded videos, but every evening we're just going to have a get together on Facebook to just have a chat. What came up? Let's talk about it. Because again, when you're in a group environment, like I found this great, but there's 2 of us. Can you imagine if there was 8 of us all saying, oh my God, yeah, I felt like that too. And this always comes up for me. You kind of think, well, if it's not just me.
Yes, I know. And sometimes we feel like it's only us. So to get into these challenges or, you know, any other kind of a group on Facebook that have like-minded people, or you're all doing and working towards the same thing, the energy is amazing, because you're like, oh my God, I'm really not the only one that feels like this.
And the realization as well, when I've done it before, people have said, you know, I feel really bad. Because, you know, when you start playing with your inner critic, it goes even worse, because it's like, should I be thinking this? Should I be sharing this? What is everyone going to think on the Facebook group? Oh my God, it's crazy.
Yeah.
You know, it's the first person who posts it. Because I sit there thinking, who's going to be the first? Who's going to be the first to post how they're feeling? And the second they do, everyone else jumps on it and they're like, oh my God, this is great. Like, I'm going to do mine now.
Yes. Because somebody took that first step to do it. Yeah. Yeah.
And you always know the ones that always sort of step into it, they're not going to leave that process because they're bought in.
Yeah.
And you know, when we do the group, I always kind of say on like the 2nd or 3rd email, I know there's going to be people reading this and you're dropping out. Don't you give up on yourself. It's a challenge. It's 5 days. You reach out to me, we'll work together, because it is. Even I do it now. I sign up to 5-day challenges, and if it's not kind of gelling or I'm a bit busy, I'm just kind of like day 3, and I just got to say, it's 5 days. Do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's going to help me improve my lives. It's going to help me writing. Just do it. Someone's given up their time, and I need to be able to actually step into that and say, hey, I'm struggling.
Yeah. So tell us where we can find a link to your challenge. Do you have one?
I will send it over to you if you want to pop it on the thing.
Yeah.
If anyone wants to follow me and my craziness, it's at Evolve with Melissa.
Yes, I tagged that in the first post, but I will do it again in the comments and in the show notes of the podcast.
Thank you.
So, and what about Instagram? Where else can we follow you? Can we follow you on Instagram?
So you can follow me on Instagram or Facebook. Again, Evolve with Melissa, that's the handle. And if you want to follow me on LinkedIn, I do post a lot on LinkedIn. I try and be slightly more professional, but it doesn't really work. Again, Evolve with Melissa. I've tried to make it as easy as possible for me.
Awesome. Yeah, it's always easy to have the same name, right?
Yeah.
Then it doesn't get confusing. All right, awesome. Thank you so much, Melissa. I really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you for having me. I love this.
Yeah, we'll definitely do it again. I'm excited. All right. Have a great night.
You too. Bye, everyone.
Bye.